Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, we build on topics, whether conscious or cosmic. It's never nonsense, mega levels or microscopic. It's a Killah Priest project, AD control the rocket. Before we land the plane, many things we engage and explain. The unexplained, without mask. Welcome to the Killah Priest podcast. Killah Priest podcast.
What up? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Make sure this microphone is on. We are live. We are back. Yo, welcome to another episode of Killah Priest Podcast. I am your host, Lord Son, a.k.a. Killah Priest. And controlling the rocket is none other than A.D. A Dizzle.
Yeah, what's good?
What's
Welcome
up?
Back.
What's
Wednesday.
up?
It's about to be on.
Yo, you already set me up for this. What's going to happen? Oh, guess who's back? Kepera's back.
Man, Kepera the Great, a.k.a. Nafar Nephilim, searching for estrogen.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, yo. So, we're going to get into that, man. We're going to get into that. Right now, there's a you know when they say an elephant is in the room? There's God in the room right now. You know what I mean? There's a God in the room right now.
Supreme knowledge.
Yeah.
Wisdom and understanding.
Yeah, and we got to chop it up just a little bit, and I could tell, and for what AD told me, it's going to be crazy. And shout out to my man Ben, you know what I'm saying? So I know it's going to be crazy. We got Majestic Marv in the building.
What's up? Thank y'all for having me.
Yes. We also have AA Rashid coming through too. So it should be a good build today. So let's just get right into this, man. Oh, let me shout out to Coach Kadaka, to all the moderators. Coach Kadaka and Sandro in the building. Shout out to the chat room, the Rocketeers, and the Craftsmen in the building. I see you, John Torres. Said peace to the God. Okay, Joseph Rikers, you said, are you scared to talk flat earth?
Man, I had a crazy build with Santana. He tried to flat earth me when I went out there. We were good on that though.
Yeah, did he try to hypnotize you?
He tried to flat earth me when I went out
I don't know where we at. All right, so Marv, Majestic, let us know your genesis, man. What's the origin? What started you on your journey?
Okay, so I was born in Queens, New York.
Ooh.
Queens in the building.
That's right. I was born to Haitian immigrants.
Hey.
Shout out to Haiti. Praise to Haiti, of course.
Yeah.
Especially with what's going on.
Okay.
Man, we got to build on that too.
Yeah, we definitely will. I'll definitely share some thought. And just long story short, I've been a student of observation for a long time since I was born. Really, I was born an only child at the time. And to a single mother and typical narrative from the streets. But what that afforded me was the ability to make an observation of my reality. And through time, when I had a real big desire to kind of have like a spiritual awakening, I say I was around, 18, 19. I started heading out to Harlem and Apollo. They used to have like these workshops and whatnot, and also down out in Brooklyn. And it was the first time that I received such information that I didn't really get from the public school system. And at that moment in time, I felt very betrayed internally and had this type of awakening when I wanted to have a sense of knowing myself. So at that time, I attracted a master teacher of the science of cosmophysics, which is a form of astrology that adds all the elements of different derivatives of astrology towards the physical reality, practical reality. So why I'm here today, one of the reasons is I want to be able to demystify the science of astrology, and also be able to empower people with a different viewpoint and perspective that they can utilize this science for their own benefit. And I want to be able to kind of illustrate what those benefits are.
Wow, man, that's a lot of stuff right there, man. So what's the problem with astrology and demystifying it? Where does it fit in the ancient world and today's world into society, period?
That's a good question. So just to give you guys some background, I was always fascinated at looking at the stars because I'm like, there's these objects out there that no one really pays attention to in modern day. It's like, there's this big sun in the sky or moon in the sky, and there's these stars, whatever. But I never really was a believer of astrology until I realized it was a science. Here's how I can let you know how it runs your life right now. Astrology is not a religion. A lot of people, that's the first thing that people kind of confuse astrology with. They feel that you have to believe in it. It's the science of observation over time. Since the beginning of time, for any conscious being that wants to observe the environment, and that includes, nature itself, they adapt to the environment and they kind of record these type of patterns and understand the sequence of time. Just like the birds that are able to sense the redistribution of energy and they migrate towards the south, they're following a system that is relating towards some cosmic biorhythm. So, those are just one of the points that I have there. And also, one thing I like to let people know is you go to work or, you have the days of the week. You got Monday through Sunday, right? Monday, if, let me say it in Spanish, and Monday is, lunes or luna or the moon, right? You got Tuesday or martes or Mars. You have miércoles or Mercury or Wednesday. You have Thursday or Thursday or Jueves, these are all derivatives of these planetary planets that we're using and saying in a different way. We call it Friday, Frida, or Viernes in Spanish, which is Venus. We got Saturn Day or Saturday, and then we got the glorious Sunday. So every single day of the week,
The glorious Sunday.
we are still subject to this cycle. For some reason, everyone agrees with this.
Yeah, we always on that cycle, that 7-day cycle.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're always on that 7-day cycle. Despite religion, everyone in this world agrees to that type of ideology because there's the sovereignty of understanding, like you can't get out of this perfection, this design, but you can observe it. So one of the things I like to do is make people observe their own lives and recognize cycles. And one of the best ones is, if, I can keep kicking it.
Yeah, but by all
So,
means.
so what astrology is a vast network of information, and we get to absorb and pick it out. But before everyone came on this planet, we were in our mother's womb. We were essentially encased in water. We didn't have, our breathing mechanism wasn't the same. So when our mother gave birth to us, our first breath is the foundational breath that we're breathing from. And how the energy or the environment or the frequency that occurred during that moment of that first breath is that start-in point for you, that first impression of life. And one thing I like to bring up is, in the Bible, we say God has given us a spirit to live, in Latin, the word spirit means spire, right? Or breath. So in reality, our first breath that's the only agreement we really have is you have no choice but to breathe. You could choose your other options, but we're breathing from that same origination point. So astrology is pretty much looking at your time and your birth time, your place of birth, and knowing what the stars were aligned during that day. And based on
My
oh good.
That was the first one. Go ahead.
So based on how the stars were arranged during that moment of your first breath, that's your signature point of how you behave. Now, let me explain. Every single planet has a rulership of energy over you. This is why not every Leo is the same, or every Virgo is the same, or every Gemini is the same, because in common media they kind of bubblegum it, especially with these astrology columns. They only focus on the sun sign. So the sun sign is really saying, hey, the sun was exactly in this constellation in this degree when you had your first breath. But what they don't elaborate on is, where was the moon that day?
That's true. Man.
Where was Mars that day? Where was Venus that day? And you will ask, why is that relevant? Well, we're using the sun, right? That's, how are the other energies impacting us? Because the moon, it affects the tides, the natural waters, and it can pull even the ocean, right? We're made up of, 70, 80% water. You don't think it's impacting us as well? So dependent on the moon phases, we can kind of see that there's clearly a relationship between these planetary bodies and life. So over time, from the beginning of these ancient civilizations till now, every group and community has created that form of observation, their own style of observation, but they all pretty much notice a similar pattern. So the moon takes about 29 days to go around the zodiac. And one thing I like to tell people is, hey, just know what sign the moon is in today, and you'll start noticing a pattern 29 days from now, and you'll start recognizing that there's certain themes that you still have to address. This is why some days we feel excited or more energetic. Where does that come from? We can't keep that level and sustain it, even it's against our will. Even if we want to feel the best, we can't, because there's certain days that are really orchestrated for you to address certain areas in your life that your soul needs. So one thing I like to bring up is, once you have your birth chart, you'll be able to know what soul work you can kind of address in yourself, and you'll know some superpowers that you have, and you realize the blessings that you have that the divine has given us. And you also understand why things happen, why people are in our lives. So yeah, that's that.
Oh wow, that's crazy, man. One thing you said I wanted to talk to you about it is you've referenced to Latin and Greek, the names of it. Can you find it further than that, because they were kind of new when the Greeks came in, they were kind of new compared to Kemet, Sumer, and stuff like that. What did they practice this also? And if so, where?
That's a good question, because I had to wrap my mind around that myself. A lot of people, that was a question I had, but it's until I really started seeing the obvious reality, that's what really confirmed it for me, where I realized that every single epoch or era of time, there was a different name for the same similar energies. Sometimes they composited because they had a different mastery with the energy. They were able to embody all of them and then say, this is representative of Tahuti. Tahuti is the nectar of wisdom and mathematics. And really, astrology is the science of math. It's really observing and measuring your reality. So I think, for as long as people were looking and measuring their reality, that's really the science that, today we call astrology. And I go back to ancient Kemet, and there's one thing I like to put in is, they talk about the 7 principles of Tahuti, and how he was in the halls of Amenti. And it's until I started reading that narrative, I realized that his progression of ascending towards his heights, he broke the system. He met these big entities that, if you read the story, they align exactly to Saturn, for example, the gatekeeper that was blockading and saying, I'm the controller of time. These are the same narratives that we're using, that the Greeks or the Romans, they took the language and hid our origination. So but it's still within our ancestral lineage. Even for me, I'll be honest, this subject picked up, I picked the subject relatively quickly, and I knew there was some part of my ancient lineage that kind of celebrated this, know. So I tell people, you know, as time goes by, people are going to change the story and the narrative as culture goes on. But if it's consistent, they'll be describing and just changing the name of the same things. Because what's a name? You know, people say my name means, you know, one who lives by the sea, or best friend, or, you know, warrior, and all these type of things. Who defined that? And no one ever really asked, like, who originated your meaning of your name? You know,
Man does.
man does. So then what does that tell you? How does manifestation work? In reality, it's the word. This is what I kind of bring up to people. We associate and create the god or the demigod based on a collective agreement of what that is.
So we all linked.
We all linked.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it is. It's like the story that is sold the most is the story that's going to become a reality, you know? So the more people hear that story, they feel that, okay, this is what's going to happen next. But they're really just, the most expensive thing to pay is not money, it's attention, you know? So they want people to pay attention towards a certain ideology, and that bastardize, like, yo, there's some truth to this, but for some reason, you know, it don't connect to me culturally. And then you lose that touch. And it can discourage you from really entering, you know, something that is closely related to your ancestry. So, yeah.
Are you speaking about Christianity?
Yeah. You know, are you referring, like, you know, as well as, like, how Christianity impacted our lineage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you know, this might be a little controversial, but, you know, when I went back to Haiti a few years ago, back in after the earthquake in 2010, I noticed a lot of, you know, images of Jesus, but, you know, he
In the
had
white version?
in the white version, in the European version, and throughout the time I see how, and I was seeing just regular workers just making new paintings all over the city, and then I realized that you're engineering people to just pay attention and deify things outside of themselves.
Facts.
Regardless of color or whatever it is, the action of it is pulling away your inner, your creative ability to really
And that's
see
all
that.
intentional too. Best believe that. That's intentional.
Correct.
You know, the people of Haiti, man, have always been a rebellious people. So, you know,
In a good way, right?
yeah, true indeed. True indeed, in a very, very good way. So, you know, when they going around putting up images like that, you know, say it's like you got to remember how the Kemet of the empire of Kemet was, that we will put images up that will always remind the people of what we represented, what we loved, who was the king, and what we stood for. You know what I'm saying? That's like really the very first styles of graffiti before graffiti was even thought of, is that we always put our culture around the whole kingdom. So it wasn't an if and a maybe from anybody that come as a foreign person. So that's why they do that in Haiti, because it's a constant bombardment on the people there that know you supposed to be worshiping us. You know what I mean? Try to get the people to compromise so that when they do blast the president and, you know what I'm saying, kill it, they can come in and be like, no, remember like who your God is.
Correct.
You know
Correct.
what I'm saying? Yeah, it's
Correct.
detrimental. It's detrimental.
Correct. I definitely want to say something to what that is, and even touch on magic. You know, a lot of people say, you know, when we hear magic, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Some people think Walt Disney,
Disneyland and shit.
Disneyland and
Yeah.
beams shooting through the airs and things like that. It's like when we think of Satan, we think of a big red entity with horns around him, right? But we've never seen that. So how do we identify what those things really are? And that's what, through astrology, is what led me to understand this. Magic is intentional, right? And in order for it to work, it needs emotions, right? Energy and motion, or the moon has rulership over emotions, over the feminine nature and things of that nature. But it fuels an outcome. So many of us in the world are doing magic unknowingly. And many of us are doing black magic unknowingly, or dark magic, or chaos, whatever you call it. Like,
I like this. It's getting heavy.
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's going to lead to family karma, karmic relationships, and healing ancestral wounds. Because I've seen it.
First, before you, because you're going deep.
Yeah.
You go shoot over the people. Explain to the people what your idea of what magic is.
Okay. So, magic is.
And we ain't talking about no hats, spiders on the hat.
Yeah, let him go.
Go ahead.
No,
You
no.
have to go ahead. I want to.
Magic,
Right.
according to my perspective,
Is that a
and
shot right there? Go ahead.
I had to let one off. That's real magic.
Go ahead.
so it's a series of rituals that lead to a certain outcome, and those rituals.
Hey, hit the what's the name again? Yo? Say that again, man.
Hit the what's the name?
I got you. Go ahead.
Turn on rewind, yo.
I'm locked in now. I'm just viewing in. I'm gonna get back to my bomb and stuff like that. But go ahead. Continue.
So it's a series of rituals that lead to a certain outcome. Now, what are those rituals, right?
Okay.
Even the word favorite, favor, right? It's a right. It's what you do repeatedly. It's
Get one for that one.
That's even a
favorite
ritual.
rites.
That's your form of magic. When you wake up in the morning, you're like, I gotta do this, and that, and then all of a sudden, this outcome happens. We do that, and sometimes our magic is off because it really comes and stems from this vehicle we're using right now, which is the word, right? So there is the words that we say and the language that we use frame the reality we're in. And what do I mean by that? Images. The ancients knew that an image can say 60,000 words, thousands of words, or plenty of words. It can convey an idea, and that idea goes into your third eye or your spiritual field where you're imagining an outcome. And then you can get into that reality or know the steps that lead you there. When you put imagery in front of a group of young people, let's say the children, they're susceptible because they haven't created the magic. Let me say the barriers that every being should. They teach you the ABCs. They teach you, that this is a square, this is a triangle, or this is the color red or blue, but they don't tell you the vibration of red or blue. They don't tell you why is it designed as a triangle, why is a 2 shaped like that, why is a 3 even shaped like that. They just tell you these are the words you're gonna use, and that's the Matrix catalog. That's the program, and
The hieroglyphs.
it's
They show you the numbers, the glyphs.
Yeah,
They
it's
take-
different glyphs. Yeah.
How to spell.
Correct.
So that you can cast spells.
correct. And that's a common thing. The spells that we use, the words that we use, and when we frame it into a sentence, and we put emotion behind it, it's like the ancient Cometians. One word means multiple things depending on the tone.
Your
It's like
intent.
your intent. So nowadays we do it in a mild version, like, yo, what's up? What up? What's up? It's the different tone, same words, but then it creates a different reality of response. So in today's age, everyone is just saying a whole bunch of spells unknowingly to their everyone around them, their friends, their partners, their neighbors, and not really careful with the impact that goes back and forth.
Noriega.
And it creates dissonance,
Right.
and it has to be addressed.
Wow.
Now it's a reality. It's you pulling in gravity. That's what conflict, or we're all planets and we're just going through each other's orbits for a specific time.
And we've heard this before when we heard the phrase "word is bond,"
Correct.
because it's literally bond. So when you
Bond,
say
yeah.
word is bond, word is magic, because magic, from my definition, would be magic is the art of language.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm not going to go too deep, but like so many spells are in Latin because Latin itself is so powerful. When you see like a magic trick happen, they're speaking Latin when they're doing their spells. You know what I mean? Because it's so magical, that language itself. But go ahead.
Yeah, and
Spelling bees.
and
Spelling tongues.
Ooh.
and this is why certain people, like for example, people who speak Hebrew or the language that they kind of associate, or bastardizations of the fire languages or the fire tongues or the Phoenician tongues, those are the ones, for some reason, you know, we're all made out of tones and energy. We're vibration. We talk about vibe, right? So
I said, just not to cut you because you're flowing. I said before that we have skin tones, so that's even a tone.
correct,
You know what I mean? It's
correct,
music.
correct. And this, talking about the skin is ruled by the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, or the largest, and rules the largest organ in the body, which
Oh,
is,
he's locked in.
you know,
He's
you
locked in. Okay. All right.
well, and this is why Jupiter rules foreign people, because whenever you see someone's, the first thing you see is where they come from. You know, and you expand when you actually interchange with different cultures. Now, what is a culture? I kind of want to bring it there and bring it back to the whole magic thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
A culture is those are the agreements and the words and tenets that that group of people have gathered and created that civilization, right? That group. So there's a lot of identity politics going on today. A lot of people are away from source. They're dividing, conquer, divide, conquer, divide, conquer. We're creating so many subsets that we're not realizing that we all really can be sovereign and break the mold, right? So whenever you create a group is also ruled by the planet Uranus, which is the collective, which is the age we're in. You know, they say it's the Age of Aquarius. What does that mean? It's why even the subject of astrology is going to have a level of dominion, because people are now going to start observing the phenomena that happen around them, and it's the age of dissemination of information and also unpredictability. There's a lot of unpredictable things happening because of the spells of yesterday. That's what karma, or what people call generational curses, right? Before we were born, we came from our mother and father, the divine masculine and feminine principles in our lives. And for some reason, when we captured their first breath, our relationship with them, we still carry we carry their genetic information.
Well, yeah, still now.
We still carry it. We still carry their impulses until we address them. And that's what understanding astrology teaches you is, how do I heal this generational curse? You're either going to repeat it because there's this default mode that everyone's on. You know, if you don't know thyself, you're like, you don't understand why you keep doing what you do until you realize, like, damn, this is like clockwork. How do I evolve this impulse? And what I say is, for example, if you have a lunar return, meaning that's when your moon in your chart returns back to the position that the moon was when you were born, right? Normally, these are the times you get extremely emotional and very sensitive to the energies around you, and you will feel emotional and even cry. Everyone has that cycle, no matter what. And when I say that, when you realize what happens, start understanding why you're crying. And it will start, or why you're pain, or why you're emotionally tugged, because it's energy in motion. Moon rules tears, right? It's the natural waters. It's tugging at us and is bringing attention to reflect on something that we have hidden. And the moon also rules family. Most of the genetic information is also stored in the emotional body. We keep thinking it's only physical. There's this emotional adoption we had. And it's until you even know your moon placement, you're able to say, okay, cool. If these are the issues that I have in my family, just by changing your emotional atmosphere, you just change your whole future. And you notice it like clockwork. So those are some applicable ways.
Man, I see. Man, I'm going right into what you're saying. Yeah, that was heavy right there, man. So allowing things to happen that we don't even know about, like the observing of the universe, the stars, and that's a lot of times myself and people I know, we struggle with that. Just allowing things just to happen, and allowing tears just to flow from our emotional body,
correct,
and things like that. So now that we have this connection, and observing where it come from, so we should be. How do we learn that?
Okay, so astrology is just a tool. Once you understand it, you don't necessarily have to be religious and looking what the weather is. Because that's another thing. Everyone uses astrology. The moment you decide to look for a forecast and see, what the weather is going to be 4 days from now, they're using the same principle. They're using planetary bodies of information to tell you that it's going to be a certain degree that day. So it's called forecasting. You're predicting the future. But astrology is just an observation of energies past, present, and future. Eventually, you'll develop an understanding of what the energy is intuitively, and you'll realize, like, hey, this is a challenging moment that I feel very emotional on, right? If you suppress your emotions, and this is one thing I tell people, what is the biggest killer in the female community
I'm right here. I'm listening.
today?
What is the biggest killer in the female community?
Yeah.
Is it cancer?
Cancer.
Yeah.
Cancer happens to be a big issue in our times, right?
Yeah.
Cancer is also the name of a constellation.
True indeed.
For some reason, we call the biggest killer, and we align the same name with a constellation. Why is that?
I always thought about that too. That's crazy.
So if you do your research, you realize that if you study what Cancer, the constellation or the rulership of it is astrologically, it's ruled by the moon. The moon rules emotions. It rules family. It rules your relationship with the divine feminine principle inside of you. It rules your moods. It rules your stomach, your eyeballs, your tears. And these are the things that so this planetary body impacts you that way. So when someone has cancer, right, what it really basically from an astrological perspective is saying that that person has stored emotions that were unaddressed, that have compiled in their internal waters.
And
now I'm going to go,
it.
and it's manifest. So I'm going to talk about water now.
Wow.
So the water in our bodies, which is there, water is able to accept tone, right? Water is able to adjust depending on the words and frequencies. We even, we've done many tests where, you put a name, a positive affirmation on a bottle of water. The water molecules kind of showed, a more impactful, lustrous outcome, right? And if you put something that was negative, the molecule was disrupted or destroyed, right? So a person who stores a lot of negative emotions is storing and storing and storing over the years, not addressing or even not having the ability to express or even cry. This is why there's a big issue with even the divine feminine principle, because people don't have a good relationship with their feelings or emotions. We're taught to hold it and not have a community space in order to, share these things. This is why women normally are able to vent easier when it comes to emotions, right? Because it's their natural planetary influence. But men also have emotions too. Our mothers have been a genetic imprint. Our relationship with our mother has created the genetic imprint of how we even relate to society at large as a community. So cancer, I feel, can be solved because you never hear any person who was pessimistic survive cancer. It's always someone who's hopeful and says, you know what, I'm going to appreciate the days that I have and I'm going to conquer this. They have to really let go of something. And that goes to the principle of sacrifice.
True indeed.
And going back to magic, this is where I tie it in. A lot of times we hear, people sacrificing people in order to create an outcome and all of that. I started thinking about it, even biblically, when you think of Cain and Abel, there was a sacrifice that had to be made. It had to be worthy to the Most High. And one was made of fruits and vegetables. The other one was flesh and blood, right? The principle of sacrifice is necessary for magic to work. But it doesn't have to be a being. It can be your pride. It can be your ego. It could be like, you know what?
Comfort.
It can be comfort, finally letting go of your anxiety, that's hard. It's like, yo, you can sacrifice that. And that's really a blessing, but many times we want to project it on someone else. Now it creates a loop and a cycle when we become an agent.
Yeah.
You know,
The gods used to tell me all the time. This one of my Aelites. He used to tell me all the time. He used to say, "Sacrifice creates better living." You know what I'm saying? And that really stuck with me on anything that I was trying to accomplish. I knew that in order for me to accomplish it, it was going to take some form of sacrifice.
Rashid, what up?
Whether it be comfort,
It's gonna be
whether
on.
it be, you know what I'm
Lord.
saying, you know, money,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying, a material object, you know what I'm saying? You had to give up something in order to gain. And that's really, like you said, that's the laws and principles of the universe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Peace.
You cannot ascend if you haven't released, because literally, even in astrology, you realize like, you actually let me bring it out of astrology for a little. You guys ever dated somebody and you break up with them, but you meet someone similar, and for some reason you wondering why? Like, yo, there's some similar traits, right?
Yeah.
When you start observing that, you're still attracting the same vibration but a different octave, meaning you are your highest or lowest version of your signs. You could be the dark part of Scorpio, but the higher octave is powerful, like any sign, right? So this is why people normally have biases over signs. It's not that the sign is describing exactly who they are. The sign is really a composite of where they've manifested, and they get to choose the scale based on their own free will. Like you can choose to be the highest version of yourself or the lowest. And that's what magic is. Are you going to reinforce the reality with your word? And are you going to be able to kind of commit to the actions or inactions? Sometimes inaction is appropriate. This is why some days you may, your mind or your ego wants to go out and take a 4-mile run or do something that's, very rigorous, but your soul, your presence, your body, your existence is telling you staying home. I don't care how you feel. And then when you're observing and aligning and you start noticing that there's planetary patterns where these similar feelings occur, just instead of denouncing it, it's a form of observation. Just look at your moon, your Mars, your Venus, your transits, or even your own chart. You'll be able to discern and realize, like, yo, normally when the moon is in this position, I feel like this, or normally I'm getting, I feel more creative during these days, because we're always we're ebbs and flows of different tones, and these planets are just extra for this. It's nothing but sex energy within our atmosphere. So that's the creative force that we have. Everyone needed to be born to collaborate and make this moment. So it gets complex, but when you take a step back, you start realizing that knowing yourself is knowing, okay, I came in this planet with this tone. How do I make the best music out of it? And that's kind of what I want to share when it comes to cosmophysics.
Wow, man, give him another bone on that.
That was deep. So yeah, when you speak on magic, you know what I'm saying, and how magic work, the rituals, you know what I'm saying, that predict a certain outcome. Why do you think that? Well, let me put it this way. What is the magic that's being run on us right now?
From my perspective, there's multiple layers. There's magic that we do unknowingly to each other from a normal day-to-day scale, right? Even if, road rage, someone cuts you off, you're like, yo, fuck you, just go back and forth.
That happened to me today. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Somebody definitely said fuck me today because I accidentally cut him off, but go ahead. You know I drive.
Okay.
Cut off.
Yeah. Road.
So that interaction is a simulation. Like, that person decided to do that reaction. In reality, there's no need to hold on to it. That's the cancer.
Negativity.
That's the negativity. So the biggest magic is making us believe that we're not doing magic. That's the biggest one, right? And that we don't have the ability to do it.
Like the devil don't exist. Or
Like the devil doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Or the devil is somebody who's 7'5" with red horn, who's red with horns. The word devil means one who deceives. Satan means the great deceiver or the great adversary. So anyone who deceives anyone else is exhibiting that tone and frequency. So that's why they say the devil was in them. And it's because either the person deceived themselves or even try to deceive others. And that deception is going to create an effect. It's this perfect law of polarity, or the law of cause and effect. There will be a reaction. This is why nothing can be hidden, especially if you look at the moon cycles. You start noticing that certain information gets revealed during the full moon. And
Yeah, definitely.
I
I felt that the other day.
word.
Yeah, I felt that the other day on a what was it, a purple moon? I don't know. Well, they got so many different moons now.
Yeah,
It's
that
like,
shit was crazy though. I was watching that shit on
Word.
my way. Yeah.
The moon was in Aquarius. So it was in Aquarius twice in the same
Same month.
same constellation.
Or same constellation. Okay.
It was in Leo in end of July, and then ended up a few days ago.
and you're a Leo too, right?
Yeah, I'm a Leo.
Oh, that's crazy.
I'm a Leo, Leo Rosin.
Oh man.
And today, just going on the map of what's happening in the sky, we have Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius. And we have Saturn retrograde as well in Aquarius. So this is why we have a lot of this lockdown. Like since Saturn hit Aquarius, that's one thing. I want you guys to Google this. When did Saturn hit Aquarius? Around the same time the lockdown occurred. And Saturn is the planet of restriction. It's the planet of
Satan.
it's in one frequency it does exhibit that, right? But in reality, Saturn is the disciplinarian
Isn't that the planet of Set too?
it's the planet of Set. Set is associated with that, and in physiology, it's our bones, it's our teeth, it's our knees, because without structure or boundaries, we'll just be flabbing skin.
Fact.
Right? So certain planets also rule. I mean, all the planets rule certain planetary bodies. Mercury rules the mind. It rules our
Is
intellect.
that because it's the closest to the sun?
It is the closest to the sun, and a lot of allegory. Like for example, Enoch. When Enoch, one of the characters in the Bible, who God was like, "Yo, you perfect. You come into heaven, and you're gonna sit by my side and start writing all the actions of humanity." That sounds like a similar, story to Mercury or to Tahuti in terms of their penmanship and their ability to kind of assess and record events. So our ability to communicate is referenced based on where our Mercury was placed in our chart. Many people who have a speech impediment, you can kind of see that there's some resistances there, but there's also opportunities for them to build strength. So, and for example, Mars in a man's chart is how they exhibit their masculinity, and also in a woman's chart, it's what she's attracted to in a man, what gets her turned on most of the time, right? Venus in a man's chart is what he's attracted to in a woman, in a female, and even the things that he likes or loves. Now, Venus is the planet of love, right? It's ruled by two signs, Taurus and Libra. Those are the two ruling constellations of that planet. Now, love is described in three ways. Taurus is the constellation that's the fixed Earth sign. It's when you say, "I love the way this feels," or "I love the way this tastes." It's a physical love and sensation. Libra is the aesthetic love. "I love the way this looks." You're not touching or tasting a painting or tasting an outfit, but you love the way it looks. That's the air sign quality of Libra, right? So
That's why like Libras always dress fly. Libras be matching, looking all good. Like, yo, that's a Libra right there. And the females, like,
My sister.
Kim Kardashian, Libra, like everything's gonna be all perfect. They're number 7.
correct.
You know what I'm
saying? They're ruled by the planet Venus, which is
Planet of Beauty.
planet of beauty and planet of attraction. Now
No, AD
talking,
was gonna come in on
I'm
this.
sorry.
so talking about glyphs, you know, if you look at a glyph, if you know what we know Mars and Venus, right? Mars is a circle and an arrow pointing outward. Most people look at these symbols and are intimidated because they don't understand, but in reality, it just describes energy going out from the source. It's a circle and it's an arrow pointing outwards. Venus has a plus sign underneath it. It's essentially removing the positive aspects to create the negation of attraction. So it's able to attract versus
And it's, if you look at
pursue.
it too, like the way that Venus is set up is kind of like the circle and the basically like negative and positive.
Correct.
Yeah, true indeed.
Correct. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
Because they exist. You know, it's one of those things. So
Yo, this is
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yo,
I gotta acknowledge the I said the God in the building.
Okay.
Before I said the elephant in the room. We just had AA Rashid walk up in this building. The energy is crazy right now. We're about to blast. I was like, God, you didn't even know that was him, right? He shapeshift on me a little bit because I was looking at the God. I thought you was AA Rashid at first. I was like, oh shit. Yo, this is crazy, brother. This is crazy.
yeah. So
We're gonna bring you up in a few minutes. You know what I mean? Can't wait to hear you build too.
We got some super chats too. If you want to throw at them real quick.
Yeah, definitely.
Brooklyn Bless for $10 says, "Does global warming affect the way we observe astrology?"
Good question.
no, it doesn't. I mean, does global warming affect the way we observe astrology? I mean, if it's hot and we have to go outside and we can't stay outside too long to observe the stars, but no, astrology is you already can track what the planetary movements are going to be way ahead of time, and also hindsight is 2020. You can also look at previous events. This is how I learned astrology. I wanted to look at previous events in my life and look at those days and see if it added up. So global warming is an outfit of where it is first. Where did we hear that terminology? That's the spell, Global warming connotates to a melting or a heating up of the world, but in reality, we're the tone that sets that tone in the world. So what I'm basically saying is, you change your own tone collectively, we change the reality. So
Step your game up.
yeah.
Step your tone game up. You know
And
what I mean?
but yeah, and talking about that, you guys, the second question,
Let's keep going. Donkey says, "Where can we learn about my birth charts? Peace to the gods. Welcome back, Kim. Love, light, and beyond."
Peace.
That's a good question. There's a lot of free there's apps online or websites. One of them is astro.com. They give a satisfactory birth chart. I myself produce them as well. You guys can hit me up or follow me on Instagram at Majestic Marv. But you can go online. I encourage everyone to just Google free birth chart, and remember to use equal housing. This is similar to how the ancients used it. And put in your information and start from there. And all it takes is a seed. I don't have to elaborate too much, because most things in life, we don't master them till we just go on the road, and then the rest is history. So, but yeah.
Nice.
But one thing I definitely want to talk about is karmic relationships, and I'll leave it there. The relationships we have with people in our lives are extremely important. Obviously, the relationship we have, the relationship we have with our peers, our mother, our father, our teachers, our intimate partners, they're all different energies. We don't have the same relationship with the same friend. And here's one thing I like to bring up. You ever walk in a spot, it's just you and your friend, and your other friend comes along, but the energy just shift all of a sudden? That's your math. Those are your planetary energies. When they come together, they're colluded, and you have to kind of understand why they're impacting you. And when you look at a person's chart, you're able to say, oh, okay, cool. Well, you don't have to be as egotistical or we don't have to be as you know, we don't have to be in too much conflict if we don't want to.
Standoffish or whatever.
Exactly. But those energies actually tell us what's happening. We don't really need the stars or a map to know. You know, I'm just saying it's a tool. You already know. I used it as a tool to now understand the fabric of reality. I'm like, yo, God is actually perfect. Everything is immaculate, and I get to change based on the cycle. I can go spiral upward or lower. So how I react to every situation is going to determine my cycle. That's what people call karma. In reality, just slow down a little bit and realize, like, every single moment you have an opportunity to address karma. So when people talk about karmic relationships or past life relationships, right? We have to realize that we're the ancestors of tomorrow, right now, right?
Yo, that's just crazy. You said that. You claimed it.
Yeah.
You gotta claim it.
You have to claim it because that's where we are. So we can address all the issues now. We don't have to go on to the next existence carrying this conflict, because in reality, we're above it. It's nothing. It's a simulation. It's an illusion. But there are certain people in our lives, you start realizing the story, even biblically, we start living the same narratives. Like when Christ said, you know, revealed to us that you're going to do great things like I do, you know? Is it not written in your law that ye are gods?
From which the word of God came from.
And in reality, that just tells us how we can impact our lives. Now, karmic relationships can happen. You know, Judas's, right? There's Judas energy that exists in our narratives. And those people are there to really sharpen your next cycle.
Yeah.
When you see people who create opposition, people call them the ops, right?
Yeah.
We even use the mathematical term in astrology called opposition. People are exactly opposed to you. Only very few people could be.
Yeah.
The math has to be right for that. And the moment has to be right for that. When it becomes a tension is because in the relationship, one of the people decided to vibrate on the lowest octave. They feel a lack, so they need to gather your energy. This is what people call energy vampires. So this is how I'm letting people know you guys could very well be doing black magic unknowingly.
Yeah.
When you can be self-sabotaging yourself or draining someone else's energy if they really want to progress and things like that.
Yeah, I used to have a friend like that, Joe. Like every time because I'm a man of ideas. So every time I would kick an idea out there, he'd be like, you know, he'd be like the nigga at the pitcher at the batter's box.
Yeah.
Right,
As soon as throw that shit up there, that nigga be like this.
Yeah, knocking it out.
Yep.
Casting your pearls amongst swine.
You know what I'm saying? Trying to throw doubt and negativity into your plan. You know what I mean?
Correct. And that's what we're doing every day.
Yeah.
This is what a lot of people are realizing. You know, we want to project our worries onto another group, but I say if
Yeah, the cat is off the hook, yo. No, cat is just he already tried.
He run the whole spot. He run the whole spot.
Yeah, I forgot to warn y'all about the cat. Yo.
Yeah, he run the whole spot.
Nah, he's not gonna attack. He's just gonna.
Shit, don't tell him that, Lord.
Yeah. He would if you get too close. See, Mojito just wild out. His name is Mojito, yo. Yo, this cat is the craziest cat you ever gonna run into.
Man.
But yeah, watch him.
I don't take much.
So here's one thing I just want to leave out. I want to call just one call in for Ra Aku. I want to bring him here so he can just make a brief introduction and then